but we can still do better still. You're not listening to each other, actually.
You're the councillors. You passed this. But you didn't ask the people of Millom to do it.
Millom, an isolated community of 8,000 people on the southernmost tip of Cumbria. Once the world's richest source of iron. Since losing its industry 11 years ago, now almost a forgotten town. In 1850 there was nothing here but a few farms and the tiny village of Holborn Hill. Then prospectors struck the largest iron ore body ever found, and in little over a decade a boom town was thrown up. The ore lay a mile from Millom at Hodbarrow Point. People flocked here by the cartload from as far away as Cornwall and Ireland to work the new Hodbarrow mine, setting up home in Millom and at Haverig, a coastal village beside Hodbarrow. Most of the miners, the great-grandfathers of present-day Millom, came from the declining tin mines of Cornwall. In 2 generations, Millom and Haverig men raised 20 million tons of iron ore from the Hodbarrow mine. An ironworks was quickly established at Millom to smelt the ore. Over a tough but secure century, the ironworks grew in size and importance, and by the 1960s was Millom's main livelihood. Then, in 1968, the great blow suddenly fell. With little or no warning, both Hodbarrow Mine and Millom Ironworks were closed down. 1,000 miners and ironworkers were thrown out of work virtually overnight. The remote giant British Steel didn't want them, and that, the government told Millom, was that.
The day the ironworks closed, the day we came out, Black Friday, September the 13th, 1968.
It came so suddenly, didn't it? We were on our holidays, been to Devon. Because when you arrived home, there was a letter behind the door, and there was a notice in stating your services will be no longer required. Well, this left the biggest percentage of the Millom working people redundant.
I served my time at the ironworks as an apprentice boilermaker, and started in 1954 and came out my time in 1959, and enjoyed the type of work that they did down there, because it was a maintenance plant, and we used to do all the maintenance on the blast furnaces and all the pig caster machine, the cinder plant.
Well, I've been there 28 years. Iris's father, he started down there as a boy, and he worked all his working life, right up to 65. The most noticeable things that happened after the ironworks closed was the absence of the noise. You see, wherever you went in Millom, you'd always hear the whining of the blowers off the blast furnaces. You'd hear the whistles and the clanking of the little locos as they're shunting wagons around the works. And at night the sky would be red with the glow of the furnaces when they were casting, and on the slag bank when they were tipping the slag. You see, this was a way of life for Millom. I mean, this had gone on for over 100 years, Paul.
Soon after closure, the ironworks was demolished. Its massive blast furnaces, foundry and stockyards broken up and sold off for scrap, leaving a scarred wasteland between the town and the Duddon estuary. The Hodbarrow mine buildings, pitheads and pumps were razed by asset strippers and the ground left to flood. The oldest surviving Hodbarrow miner is Cornishman Percy Davies.
Well, I started to work in 1897 when I was 13 years old, and I had to walk about 3 miles there and 3 miles back. And when I got to the work, I had to lift points for the engines, and the points were too heavy for me to lift. So they shifted me from there to near Steel Green, where they put me as a kettle boy, I had to bring the dinners for the bosses from Allbourne Hill. And after that they told me to tell Mother to make big pockets into my jacket to bring home some beer from the Harbour Hotel at Avery.
What about the pasties?
And
Did you take them as well?
the beer was nearly as heavy as what I was. And then they asked me, would you like to go down into the pit? That'd be, I'd be about 16. Of course, I thought it was a great thing to go in the mines to work. The big house was the Oddbarrow office. The next house where the Dialer lived, Mr. Richards. The next house was Mr. Peters. The next house was Captain Towers, Captain Strike, Captain William Rich.
The captains were mine overseers. Edwin Rich, a descendant of Captain William Rich, still lives in Steel Green Terrace.
My family have an almost unbroken record of 300 years of mining behind them. And in fact, my great-grandfather was Hodbarrow's first captain. I remember when I was younger, when the mine was working, that the captains were very well-respected people. In fact, the whole of the Cornish people in Millom, in general, were people who had a sort of religious background, very much so. The majority of them were Methodists. My own family, as I say, were Cornish, and I was brought up to some degree as a Cornishman, because we had all the customs that the Cornish have to this day, like pasties. We had a day for pasties. On a Sunday, it was unthinkable to go playing cricket or riding a bicycle or anything like that. That was very much frowned upon. We didn't like it, but we had to suffer it.
And when we used to go to church, St. George's Church in Millom, you had to go early to get a seat. People used to go to church in those days. And when Mr. Cedric Vaughan, we always recognized him as a great man in Millom. We all stand. We all stand and bow to him when he comes in.
When the time came, this blow fell in that the mine closed, I think people were bewildered completely. At first it was a great shock to them that this had suddenly stopped, which no one ever dreamt it ever would. Those Cornish pumps over there had gone pounding away year after year, year after year, year after year, pumping millions of gallons out of the mine. In fact, really, they kept Millom afloat, almost like pumping a vessel out that was leaking. They kept Millom afloat all these years, and then they suddenly stopped. And it was as if a clock had stopped. The water level in the hollow gradually rose. It took some time to do this, and it now stands at about 70 feet in depth. It covers the remains of the old sea wall and of the small pump which used to drain the pond at the bottom of this hollow.
In the old sea wall, we used to have a concert there every fortnight by Averick Band. And hundreds turned up for that. and it was a great day for our big band. Well, we had some good bands in Millom. Old Hill Band was recognised one of the finest in the country.
Spot on together. Ready? 1, 2.
Overdale Royal Brass Band was formed in 1860, as far back as then. They've actually got minutes from 1860, from when they started the band. And it got the name Royal from Muncaster Castle. They went to give at a garden party, and there was royalty there, the Duke of Connaught, who was then the Prince of Wales. And the band were playing, and he came up at the interval and wrote Royal on the band and said that they were entitled to use that name.
And not too loud. Ready? 1, 2. No! Now, come on, it must be together. 1, 2.
This musical side to the Cornish, they seem to have a great love of music. Millom was famous for singers in those days. And also, they were great rugby players, and we had an extremely good rugby team in Millom for many, many years. It was famous all over the north of England.
It's a stronghold in the town is the rugby. They're all a good team, you know. Today, there's 2 internationals playing on the sand, Joe Jackson and Jim Bowden. And I think this is Jimmy's second appearance for England in the amateurs. 7 lads playing for the county and 2 subs. Millom Rugby League Club is one of the oldest amateur rugby clubs in the being, because when they played at the beginning, it was not called rugby league, it was called Northern Union, and it had 15 players, not 13. And Millom supplied, for one of them county matches, they supplied 9 players. That was 1890 something.
I remember all Millom rugby players, Jim Bucket, Harry Knowles, you know, Ike Latham, Wharton, all about 20 years older than what I was, they were. I used to try and touch some of the players.
Nearly all these men used to work at the mine or the ironworks, but today most jobs in Millom are for women. LBO Knitwear is a capital-intensive factory with few openings for men, though it did manage to take on 40 men from the ironworks in 1968. For the lucky ones, a new job on their doorstep did a lot to ease the pain.
I didn't feel anything, to tell the truth. It was just work. Just work. I think that's what the biggest majority of the people around this area think. And of course, with the ironworks, you've got to work somewhere, so LBO was handy. It's LBO.
First thing that was this thing, so anyway.
Why do you say that?
Why? Well, it's a lot cleaner, isn't it? You know, I mean... Yeah, but for about out of work. Put a lot out of work. For how long? How many's out of work now? And how long were they out of work for? No time. No time. Bloody tall, like, they're all crying and all that lot.
A lot of them found jobs.
Yeah, right away.
Right away.
But most were not so fortunate, and now have to travel long distances to work, to big employers such as Vickers Shipbuilding, 25 miles away in Barrow-in-Furness.
I got a job at Vickers as a plater, a boilermaker, and but it was a totally different job altogether to what I'd been used to. It took quite a lot of settling in. As I said before, we were on maintenance, and this was shipbuilding. And when I started, I didn't know apart from starboard of a boat. In the days of the ironworks, it was a family community. The difference is we go to Vickers, and with quite a big workforce of Vickers, it takes quite a while to get to know everybody.
At 7:30 in the morning, the Vickers night shift clocks out, and for the Millom men, it is a long trek home by rail or road around the Duddon estuary.
We all started down here in 1968 or 60, early 69, when the ironworks finished, and we all got made redundant. And we were coming by train and by car, but the train was very expensive, And most of the lads are on labouring wages, which made it difficult. But when a fella's having to pay out of his wages £5–6 a week, and plus the fact that sometimes the train was late, at the particular time we were on a bonus, a good timekeeping bonus. And if you didn't put your 40 hours in, you didn't get no bonus. So we decided in 1974 to form a club called the Night Riders Association. And we formed the club, and I was the secretary of the club, and we got in touch with the local bus proprietor and hired a bus off him, and that's how the Night Riders came into function, and the Ministry of Transport granted us a licence to run to Vickers.
If British shipbuilding is in decline, another major employer for Millom, which is threatening to expand, is the massive Windscale atomic plant, 25 miles up the coast to the north.
I wrote an application off to 3 firms just outside the area, and I said to Iris, whichever replies first, that's the job I'll take, because the first application came from Windscales. So I went up there for an interview, and I got started on the present job I'm on now as a mechanical inspector.
If Windscale had been any good in the first place, it would have been down the south. Wouldn't have been up here.
The thing about it is, it's one of the only sources of employment we've got. I mean, we've got to work. If it didn't work there, where would we work? There's nothing else around Millom.
But if we could only get something, one big factory, as I've said before, I'm sure that's all we need. We're not asking for a lot.
But the planners have endorsed a proposal from 20th Century Banking, the owners of the old Hodbarrow mining site, to make a large caravan and leisure area for tourists. Nearly everyone in the town objects, including Councillor Mary Crossman.
This proposal to have such a large camping site on the old Hodbarrow mining site is much too big, very much too big. It's 1,952 caravans, statics. They also propose to have a tenting area, which would mean if these caravans and tents were occupied, the total population on the caravan site would far exceed that of our parish. We feel that the majority of people who are for it must have a financial interest in it. They feel they're going to gain by it at the expense of the rest of the populace.
I can now give you the present position with regard to this application by the 20th Century Banking in respect of this leisure development at Hodbarrow, and upon which the Town Council commented favourably on the 15th of November. And can say that Copeland's Planning Committee have considered the application and recommended conditional approval to the County Council, bearing in mind the points made by the Town Council.
So despite nearly unanimous opposition from Millom and Havering, the leisure plans have been approved by the Town Council and passed by Cumbria County Council. The English Tourist Board are offering grants to Millom tradespeople and have called a public meeting.
I think the only answer I can give as a local government officer is that the decision is made by your elected representatives, and your local town council has had an opportunity to comment on those plans and presumably give the opinion of the people of Millom to the district and the county council.
May I point out just one thing, that we have only one
county councillor representing this whole area.
I am completely and utterly opposed to this development. You take into account 1,600 caravans, the cars, the recreation facilities, the catering facilities, everything that's going to go on down there, the weight of that mass, when you've got an area there that is subject to continual subsidence.
How long have you been here?
Far less time than you have, Miss Cross.
Yes.
4 years.
I'm fourth generation. There are sixth generation of my family now in Havering village. And my forebears and forebears of lots of Havering residents created Millom and Havering. And we are downright disgusted to see the way it's being treated. And people coming in from outside and telling us what we should be doing.
We talk
Not at all.
about a compromise between tourism and conservation.
The conservation doesn't come into it. If your definition of conservation is the same as mine, we keep what we have. We do not stand, and we're certainly not going to sit down to having people coming in and taking from us things we have been enjoying and expect to enjoy for generations to
But
come.
you've only been enjoying, for instance, the Hobbarrow area since the iron mines closed.
You see, Mr. Herriot, it's obvious. Now,
He's condemned himself out of his own mouth.
I think this group understands the feelings of the people of Millom about the Hobbarrow site. What we're talking about is the fact that English Tourist Board does have funds available to influence development if people want to take advantage of it.
For God's sake, it's not about money, it's about people. It's about time you people realised it and stopped coming in from away and saying, telling us what we need.
If we bring tourism here, there's no jobs. All the young ones are going to have to move out. All these young ones coming up now, they're going to move out. So in the end, you're going to be left with middle-aged and old people. And that's all it'll be, a residential town.
I think this is the problem. We're so isolated here in this area that when people down London, ministers and MPs get down to London, they're inclined to forget the people within the area, even the area they operate from.
You know, it's just a name on a paper, you know, and they're just not interested.
You've set your life in one place, and you build your life round one place. And to me, Millom and Havering as well, it's a great little place.
I wouldn't like to see it overrun with tourism. I'd just like to see something that would replace the ironworks. You know, we need an industry, something to say, well, this was made in Millom.
Start all over again. Not let's forget our sorrows. We must live for tomorrow. Remember the sunshine will always follows the rain. So let bygones be bygones and start all over again.
Oh, I don't think Millom will ever
No.
die. Millom will never
No.
die.
If they make it a tourist place, it'll probably grow. But which way is it for the better for Millom? I mean, is tourism good for Millom? This is the thing.